Welcome everyone to the Starting Point Education Channel podcast. Tonight we have Geoff Farnsworth with us, and he will be talking about what is mindfulness. Thank you all for joining us. I am Loretta Depka from the Starting Point, and it's an honor to be here and talk about various topics. If you have visited Starting Point's education channel on YouTube, which you can get there from our website, you will see there's a number of other topics available, from eating disorders to anger management to isolation, and maybe one you all want to listen to tonight would be resocialization as states are beginning to open wide. Without further ado, let's start with introducing Geoff. Geoff is a certified life and relationship coach and a certified Hakomi. Am I saying that right, Geoff? I did it. Mindful somatic therapist. So you know what, Geoff, why don't you talk about what that means so people understand the depth of your background?
Okay, in terms of the Hakomi psychotherapy, it's really one of the first psychotherapies that started to use mindfulness as part of the therapy in the sessions even. And it's a way of using mindfulness and the body, the somatic experiences, to uncover hidden beliefs or core negative beliefs, those kinds of things, and begin to become more aware of your experience so that you can have better choice, you make better choices and free yourself up from some of that, negative beliefs that we might carry around. It's very powerful. It's a way, and as I say, it was one of the first, is the first really, but now there's a whole lot of different therapies that have adopted mindfulness, but they always keep coming back to Hakomi as being that was the origins of it all. And I was certified in that along, I forget what year, but in late 1990s. So.
And Geoff, you're also a certified addictions counselor as well, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so you really do have.
And also I was trained by John Kabat-Zinn in the mindfulness-based stress reductions to be a teacher of that program.
Oh, wow.
Which has become, huge in terms of it's in all the hospitals now and so forth.
So you're the expert in mindfulness. I'm so glad that you joined us tonight.
We're all the experts.
So Geoff, let's jump in. What is mindfulness?
Well, let's see. Mindfulness the mindfulness itself is a way of being. It's a quality of being, you might say. Mindfulness is a way of being with your experience without judgment. It's allowing it's really an allowing of what comes up for you without feeling like you have to get into some sort of conflict with it or try to change it or move away from it. It's just continually coming back to that present moment and your present experience over and over. And basically that's what, that's like I say, it's really a quality of or a way of being. Now, mindfulness meditation is different. I mean, that's a little different, distinction.
And, we talked a little bit earlier and you said there are some common misconceptions about mindfulness.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of people feel like you have to shut down, that one of the misconceptions, we feel like we have to shut down our thinking. That somehow we have to quiet our mind. And like you were saying earlier, Loretta, about when you were practicing, it's not about that. It's not about quieting our mind. It's simply allowing whatever your mind is doing without getting caught up in it.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's, anytime we sit for more than probably 30 seconds, we're going to have a bunch of, we're going to have our thoughts shooting by. So it's the other misconception that it's not a state of, like a special state of awareness or consciousness or some calm place we're trying to get to. It's not it's really not it's not, we don't have a goal when we're practicing mindfulness meditation.
Oh, so I'm not failing all the time I'm trying to do.
Exactly. That's why I said, no, you're not. It's just whatever is happening is I think the big misconception, and one of the things that is a real obstacle for a lot of people, is they start to judge the thoughts come up, and then we start to judge our thinking. I shouldn't be thinking that. I'm not being mindful. That goes on and on. Instead, what mindfulness is being open to what you're experiencing without judgment. You're not trying to change anything. That's what's so revolutionary about it. You're not trying to change. It's allowing whatever you're experiencing without judgment. So there's a non-striving, it's very counterintuitive for a lot of us, especially us Americans, we're goal-oriented, striving and all that, but it's just the opposite. And when we adapt that kind of a non-striving, things become clear. Whatever action you need to take becomes clear to you. It's not driven by some sort of way of avoiding what you're experiencing, but more from wisdom. Over behind me, my wife Dot actually made that plaque over there. If you can see it, but on that plaque, there's a quote, and it goes, "Do you have the patience to wait till your mind settles and becomes clear? Can you remain unmoving until the right action arises?"
So, that's a tough one, Geoff.
Yes, it is for a lot of people.
It's a tough state to find.
It's practice,
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
That's where the mindfulness practice comes in. We're practicing, we're kind of going to the gym and building that muscle of awareness so that during the day, we'll have it available to us. So there's a non-striving element to it that kind of that's one of the misconceptions. And that, as I said earlier, that somehow our mind should be clear. We should try, it's about trying to clear our mind or quiet our mind. And it's not. That's a misconception too. Some days our minds are clear and some days are not. It doesn't matter. It's just like the analogy sometimes is the ocean. Some days it's calm. Great. Some days it's, 100-foot waves,
Right.
But as long as we stay present and drop below that, it's like dropping below the surface of the ocean. It's calm there. That's when we drop below it, it's calm. So that's the idea with becoming more mindful.
So then mindfulness, one of the misconceptions of mindfulness is it's not meditation, correct? I mean,
mindfulness is not meditation. That's why, it's not. So mindfulness meditation is just a way of a practice to help us become, well, the definition of the kind of working definition is that it's being aware of the present moment on purpose, non-judgmentally.
Okay.
So that's the essence of what mindfulness meditation and mindfulness is. It's being aware of the present moment on purpose. In other words, you're bringing some attention to it, and not getting into any judgment or kind of conflict with it. So
I imagine mindfulness sort of takes you to places that you would not go naturally.
Oh, definitely. I mean, sometimes we do. We have experiences. That's what I always say to people. There's many times in your life that you've been mindful. Anytime have you ever been like in front of, like maybe out in nature, and it was like, look at this beautiful scene, and you're just so present to it and connected to everything. That's mindfulness. That's an example. Sometimes it's just being with a child and just being present with that child. They're all examples of mindfulness. And this is another, since we're talking about misconceptions, that's another one, that somehow mindfulness is something we have to kind of learn and get. And, awareness or mindfulness and awareness they're God-given. We all have, it's already here. We already have the capacity to be mindful or aware. Sometimes I use awareness synonymously. it's not something that we have to develop or do anything. It's just noticing we have it and then bring it intentionally to our life. So that's one of the other kind of misconceptions. It's, another misconception about mindfulness practice, the meditations themselves. It's not a technique.
And now you're really confusing me.
Yeah. Meaning a technique implies that there's some goal at the end. We're practicing this to get to some place else.
Because someplace else is here, right?
Right. The mindfulness. That's why it's misconstrued. It's practicing being here. It's not practicing being somewhere else. So it's really about just staying present and not getting into some sort of goal-oriented process that you have to get somewhere else. It's just being here, like you said.
And you keep on referencing, no judgment and acceptance. That one's got to, that just makes it even tougher, doesn't it?
Well, here's the thing. One of the things that we notice when we start to practice mindfulness or just go into a mindful place is just how judgmental we are. That's the first thing. That's probably the first, I know it was for me. That's the first thing that I became aware of. Wow, look, I'm just yakking away up here. one judgment after another. But when I say non-judgmentally, it's not judging that you're judging.
Okay.
You follow that? I mean, in other words, it's just our human nature to be in some sort of judgment. I usually go like this because that's what it looks like. It feels like it. But if we can step back, drop down, we can observe our thinking without getting caught up in all the thoughts. We can just, it's like an example might be, like watching, you're being at the side of a highway and watching the cars go by. If you look straight ahead, it's almost like the cars aren't there, right? You can see right through to the other side of the road. But when we get caught up in our thinking, we get taken away. We start to get in the car and go down the road. So it's just watching our judgmentalness without judgment. And with kindness. Another word would be kindness, to watch, to be present with your experience, even though it's all going like whatever it's doing, and you bring some kindness and compassion to that.
And that's usually very difficult for us to give to ourselves.
Oh, yeah, that's why it's so radical. To me, the practice of mindfulness is a radical change in the way that we orient ourselves to life. Because we're so used to looking outside ourselves, reacting to the noise in our head and outside ourselves, that we very, very rarely are present. Ask yourself, when's the last time you sat and did nothing for 5 minutes? Nothing. No thinking, no planning, no strategizing, no to-do lists, no thinking about yesterday, no thinking about tomorrow. You're just there.
Oh, I did that this morning.
Good.
Right.
Good, but I mean, it's rare that we do that, right? I mean, it's a rare experience, and unfortunately, it's where all the gold is. When we settle down, become mindful, start to experience that calmness that does come naturally. That's where wisdom starts to show up, appreciation, gratitude. They just naturally unfold out of that state, out of that place of mindfulness. We don't have to work at it. It's not like we have to I got to get more gratitude, No, it's just stay present, open, without judgment. That's what'll show up.
You used a phrase, natural calmness. I'm just thinking most of us are on this treadmill of life that we're not stopping. And I guess that's what you're a proponent of, that we stop and listen.
Yes, you can be mindful and busy at the same time. Right.
Okay, so tell me how you do that.
Okay, same way. You stay, you notice what you're experiencing in any given moment. as you're doing whatever you're doing. There's an awareness of what you're experiencing. So let's say, in fact, one of the exercises I often suggest people do is take something you do habitually every day, washing your teeth, brushing your teeth or washing the dishes, and just do it mindfully. So every time if you're brushing your teeth, you're just noticing the sensations of the brush on your teeth, the smell of the toothpaste, whatever is present for you in that moment. That's, you'll find that your brushing teeth becomes a whole different experience. But it's not hard. It's not like, it doesn't seem, it's just remembering to do it, and actually meditation, from the Tibetan tradition, the word for meditation was remembering. That's how they translate meditation. And it's just remembering to be here, remembering to be present, remembering to take a breath.
Wow.
Non-striving, so that's a little bit about, how some of the misconceptions about, mindfulness.
Are there, sort of positive physical effects of mindfulness? And of course, I'm assuming the mental are helpful with stress and anxiety and life.
Yeah, what's really interesting about this mindfulness meditation, there's been so much research into it, and it's been applied in different contexts, different areas, that there's so many benefits to it. It's hard to list them all. You definitely decrease your stress and anxiety and depression, and as a result, increase happiness, like we were talking about. But it's also you become much more able to pay attention. Your memory improves, creativity becomes enhanced. So, and then in terms of our physical health, it lowers your blood pressure and cholesterol, for that matter, decreases chronic pain, reduces hypertension, decreases, by decreasing the cortisol levels in our system. We sleep better, and on and on. The benefits, the physical benefits, the health benefits. That's why they incorporate mindfulness-based stress reduction into the wellness centers in hospitals, in the major hospitals, both at Penn and Jefferson, and I don't know, the local ones here in Jersey probably do too, have a mindfulness-based stress reduction program because of the health benefits. So there's a lot of benefits. It's the best kept secret in the world. If we can just stay present to our experience, what happens? It's amazing.
Well, Geoff, what about when those thoughts that are coming in where you're saying that you have to be present, when those thoughts are really negative, or they, I know you just said you have to be positive and not judgmental, but what if you are judgmental, or it's something from your past that is not nagging you and it pops up in that present moment?
Yeah. Well, it's very common, first of all, that will happen. It's not unusual.
Okay.
So if a negative story or thought comes up to you, it's just go, oh, there's a story, or there's a thought. So you step back. It's more of taking a step back from the thought. So there's negative thoughts going on, right? You just say, oh, there's some negative thoughts. Let me just take a breath, step back and observe it. Oh, there it is. There's that thought. And if you stay present, you'll notice that thought changes. Our thoughts are changing all the time. If we stay present, that's what happens is when we're not conscious or mindful, we grasp onto a thought and hold on to it. And it just grows, it gets, if it's like anxiety, it's an anxious thought, it'll just grow because we're stuck in the holding on to it. If we let go, like like in the program, you let go, right? We just step back, let go, and just, oh, there's a negative, there's that story about, how goofy I am, or whatever it is. It's just that, so it becomes more of, you become more of an observer of your experience as opposed to having your thoughts take over or your feelings take over. So by practicing, there's lots of days lots of times when you're during the day being mindful, or when you're practicing mindfulness meditation, where you're going to have negative thoughts or experiences, or even pain. Physical pain.
Sure.
It's I learned a lot about that in my own experience recently, because I went through, surgery, cancer surgery, and, the hormone therapy and radiation and all that stuff. It really helped me a lot to not get caught up in, first of all, the worry, but also the physical discomforts that come with it. It's just, I don't get into it. But mindfulness helps me really to not get into some sort of a conflict with what I'm experiencing.
So what I'm hearing is really the direct opposite of sort of meditation, because meditation, you're supposed to be in touch with all of your bodily systems, and correct? Or
yes.
Okay.
No, you're in meditation, depending on what kind, but mindfulness meditation, you're aware of whatever you're experiencing in that moment, which includes your body, your mind, and the environment around you.
So are there techniques or exercises that help you get to the state of just being present in the moment?
Yes. Yeah, there's lots of those. The ones that are the formal meditation practices, there's plenty of resources available for that. If you go on YouTube and look up Jon Kabat-Zinn basic meditation, you'll find it. The one that I usually start with, and most people start with, really is the breath. In terms of a technique, you just bring awareness inside and just become aware of your breath going in and going out, in, out, and just stay with that. And after a while, that focusing on the breath is really just an anchor to help you get into a present state, to get present, because you can't breathe later or yesterday. It's
right
now. It helps you to get right into the present moment. So once you have kind of maintained some level of awareness of your breath, you open up that awareness to your body, what's going on, your mind, the sounds in the environment, all your senses. You open up to all that. So you start with the breath and just expand the awareness itself to your whole experience. That's the basic kind of where people tend to start. But I would encourage people to really go, there's so many resources now. There's apps, there's the one I like is called Waking Up rather. There's, Calm, there's Headspace. There's a bunch of them out there that have good start, can get somebody started with, with mindfulness meditation, as well as some of the other kinds of meditations, really. What I would encourage people to do, especially if they have any, they're struggling with it, is to get a teacher. It doesn't take long. Won't take long, but get a teacher to kind of guide you through some of the, the beginning stages of it, if you're having trouble with it. And I'm available for that, but there's plenty of online. You can get it. You can have an online teacher today, with the way things are. But, when I started, it's still that way in a way, but my mind, as I said, I have an ADD mind, it's always going all over the place, like it is now, actually.
And you can calm it and
Oh, sure. You just notice it. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. There's my mind going wherever it's going, and I just come back to the present.
You mentioned it a couple times, gratitude with mindfulness. Is that sort of a you whisper that to yourself or to get there, or?
What I have found is that when we are mindful in the present and aware, and we're without the judgment going on, gratitude just naturally unfolds. I mean, I sit out in my back deck and just sit there and just watch the birds. I feel very grateful that I can do that. I can feel grateful for my health, even though I'm going through all these, I'm still here, But I think what I'm trying to get at, though, is it's a lot of these qualities: gratitude, acceptance, kindness, compassion. They are who we are. But the problem is we get caught up in our, conditioned mind and our conditioning, and that gets kind of covered over. When we stop and become mindful, those qualities are natural elements, qualities of who we are. You start to notice them. You just become. That's one of the real beauties of this kind of work. It's not a lot. It's contrary to what it might sound like. There's a certain amount of effortlessness involved. It isn't about effort or trying to be better or improving yourself. It isn't. You already are. That's what you discover. You already are what you're looking for.
You're calming me just by explaining that. I'm feeling present. That's it.
Great.
You can feel yourself slowing down as you describe it.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I can practice it and not have a goal at the end of the thing. Can we have a little goal, like do it for 5
sure.
minutes?
You have to have. There's a little bit of intention. I would call it intention.
Okay, I'll go with intention.
The intention is to be present in each moment as it passes, without judging you for judging. You know what I mean? It's not, when I say non-judgmentally, it's impossible. I don't know any human yet that doesn't judge.
Sure.
But what happens is we judge our judgment. So that's what I mean by non-judgmental. You just sit, and whatever comes, you allow it. And if anything, you have a kind attitude towards it.
Geoff, the way you're talking about it, it isn't something that you practice in the morning. It's how you live your life.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
The only reason that I encourage people to practice until you get the muscle.
Okay.
Especially, so what I do, I usually practice in the morning for about 20 minutes, right? Sometimes it's 10, but 10 to 20 minutes. It could be longer too, by the way. When I was trained, it was 45 minutes.
Okay.
But 10 to 20 minutes every morning. And then I have a series of, I can't really get to them today, but I have a series, what they call micro meditations or glimpses, that I practice. And I used to set up I have an app on my phone that would intermittently during the day remind me, like an alarm would go off, that was a reminder, basically.
Okay.
And I used to do that, maybe try to do one of those micro meditations, 4 or 5 times a day, or more even sometimes. But now they're natural. It just comes natural. I don't have to, but that comes with practice. It becomes more natural. Yeah.
So Geoff, do you lead workshops that help people get there?
Yeah. I'm really excited about offering some programs. I haven't defined when yet. As soon. It's not like far off in the future, but it'll incorporate mindfulness meditation. It'll incorporate what we call mindful inquiry, which is really a way of getting a better understanding of yourself, and some other practices that would help, help in all the aspects of your life, really.
Can you talk a little bit about mindful inquiry? That's just
Yeah, the classic mindful inquiry is, who are you?
Uh-oh. Does that follow with what's the meaning of life?
It's sort of like that.
Okay.
They're like, there's, in the Zen world, they call them koans. They're questions that there really isn't an answer, a cognitive answer to. But a mindful inquiry is really just a way of going in and looking for, either it could be looking for, like I said, who are you, or what are you, or or it could be, what is your heart want to say? That could be an inquiry. What is your heart, not your head, but what does your heart want to say? And if you stay mindful with that question, you usually do get an answer that's not from here. It's not a conceptual answer, it's one from your heart. So they're the kind of mindful inquiries that we tend to use. There's a whole series, and there's these many micro meditations that I mentioned, glimpses, as I mentioned. There are ways, there's what we've been talking about is more like deliberate mindfulness meditation. It's a deliberate formal practice. These glimpse practices are sometimes referred to as effortless mindfulness, but they're focused more on being aware of what's being aware. If that makes that a little confusing, but mindfulness is being aware, as we've been talking about, of whatever you're experiencing. But if you ask the question, what is it that's being aware? You get a whole different level of awareness of who you are, or who you aren't, in a way. So it just deepens your understanding of it deepens your self-awareness and your, how you organize yourself internally.
So there is something like guided mindfulness that is not meditation, correct?
Oh, yeah, sure. There's guided, some mindfulness meditations, like I was suggesting people go to, let's say there's many of them, but John Kabat-Zinn's the one that's most well known. They're guided. It's a guided mindfulness meditation.
Okay.
But these inquiries are different. They're just questions that you sit with. There's no real answer.
Right.
But they do bring you more awareness and insight.
Well, Jeb, I'm imagining that if we learn this as children, it might be easier. How, if you're a parent, do you teach others, particularly your children, to be?
That's a wonderful idea, and I really would encourage any parent to start practicing, having some mindfulness practices that you bring into your children.
So in other words, take away the phone, the iPad, the computer.
Oh, well, sure.
And
Yes. Yeah. We don't want to mindfulness is about not screening things out.
Right.
No screens.
No screens. Uh-oh, I'm in trouble.
But, kids really catch on to it. I mean, they're using them in some schools now. There's lots of programs for children right now. There's even an app, I can't remember the name of it, but if you, on iTunes, there's an app that you can get specifically for kids to help them with mindfulness. And they bite-size it.
How young would you start them?
2.
Really?
Sure. Yeah, you bite-size it. Just for a 2-year-old, you might just let's just count your breath. It's to 3.
Wow. Notice
your breathing.
Or think about what you've done when you have to sit in the corner. Does that work? That's not mindfulness. That's okay, that's judgmental. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah.
Well, did we miss anything that you want to share, Jeff?
I think just a little bit more about thinking. I think because that was the biggest aha for most people that I know, and myself included. There's so much, there's so much that goes on up here that creates most of our suffering, most of our pain, most of our stress and anxiety is created in our thinking. So, with mindfulness, you start to learn and notice your thinking without getting carried away by it. And as a result of that, you can either let thoughts go or change them more easily. I'm thinking of Anne Lamont, who's a writer that, she says, my mind is a bad neighbor. My mind is a bad neighborhood. I try not to go there alone.
I love it. That's great.
And Mark Twain, Mark Twain was big quote, famous quote of his is, I've been through a lot of terrible things in my life, some of which have actually happened.
Wow.
Because, mostly that's what we're doing with our thought. We're catastrophizing, we're thinking about what's going to happen and it's just worry, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So anyhow, I would just say, one of the real profound differences is that you begin to notice your thoughts instead of your thoughts having, kind of taken over and driving. It's basically you're telling the thought machine to step and get in the passenger seat and you're driving.
Oh, I like that visual.
Instead of them driving, So, yeah, so it's a wonderful experience to step back especially when you first do it. It's like, wow, I'm not my thoughts. I'm not my thoughts. Most people think somehow and orient that we are our thoughts, but we're not. We're not our thoughts. There's something there that's present that's much bigger than any thought you're going to have, which is awareness. Awareness is really the human superpower. It's our superpower, no question about it, in my mind. It's bigger than anything, bigger than thoughts, bigger than feelings, and so on.
Geoff, I'm sorry that people can't see you. As you're talking about this stuff, I can just see this, I don't even know I guess this mindfulness, but this calmness that just surrounds you. We're going to have to hang out in the office. I need some of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Geoff, I can't thank you enough for joining us. And maybe we'll have to do a second one of these where we actually do the exercises.
Yeah, that'd be great. We'll do a couple of them.
Inquiry, what was it, mindfulness?
Yeah, because I was thinking, that's a great idea, because talking about mindfulness, either mindfulness or mindfulness meditation, is like talking about how to ride a bike.
Right.
Okay, you put one foot over here, and then when it leans over this way, you lean that way. Until you actually do it, it's hard to get a sense from just talking about it. So even if we don't do it, I would encourage everybody to do it.
Well, I'm certainly going to try it tonight.
Yeah, you'll sleep better.
Right. Hey, I'm up for that. Well, Geoff, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. And thank you everyone for joining us. You will be able to listen to this podcast in entirety on our Starting Point education channel, and it should be up sometime this weekend. So you can join us next time. Our next podcast will be on forgiveness. So we look forward to having you all join us. Thank you, and have a...
And Loretta, I would just add, if anybody has any questions, to contact me.
That's great.
I'd be glad to give you resources and answer questions if you want.
And
email address.
You can find Geoff Farnsworth on our website.
Yeah.
Which is startingpoint.org.
Yeah, thanks.
Anytime. All right. Thanks, Geoff. I appreciate it. Have a good night.
Yeah. Thanks for everybody for being here. Love you all.